Our digitized society brings new possibilities, but it also makes us more vulnerable and exposed to IT-related attacks. But the upside overrules the downside, at least according to Mikko Hyppönen, who's with us here today. Welcome, Mikko.
Thank you.
Mikko Hyppönen is an internationally well-known expert within the area of IT security. He has lectured at the universities of Stanford, Oxford and Cambridge and works for the Finnish company F-Secure. You call yourself a hacker hunter. What's a hacker hunter?
I spend my time trying to understand where the attacks are coming from, and that means that we regularly are able to find the actual individuals behind online crimes. And whenever that happens, then we work with the law enforcement to pass the intelligence we have, which in practice means we've sent people to jail. So I hunt hackers.
We will talk more about that, but if we start perhaps with the good news. How would you summarize the opportunities with a digitized world?
It really has been a massive change that has happened over the last 20, 30 years. You could call it a revolution. That's the internet revolution. And that really means that 20, 30 years ago we had computers, but they were not talking to each other. And today every computer talks to each other. And that's, of course, a good thing and a bad thing at the same time, because when you increase connectivity, you also increase your risks. But I think everybody would agree that the upsides are clearly much bigger than the downsides.
But we're here now to talk about the risks. So what is your general view on IT security today?
It really starts from the actors. That's the people behind these attacks, because we have completely different kinds of groups doing these attacks. We all know about computer crime. That's when somebody attacks your company or attacks your home system and tries to make money by stealing credit card numbers or installing a ransomware Trojan on your system. But there are many other kinds of groups as well. For example, hacktivist gangs. Anonymous is probably the best known example of these. And these attackers are not trying to make money. They typically have some kind of an agenda, like a political agenda, or they want to protest against something. Then we have the governments, including intelligence agencies, militaries, even law enforcement. And in the future, it's quite clear that we also have to worry about extremists and terrorists as well.
We have actually seen a few attacks recently affecting our society in quite severe ways. What's your comment on that?
The WannaCry and Petya cases have really been a wake-up call during 2017. Because we've been seeing malware attacks for almost 30 years now, but we weren't really used to these massive outbreaks anymore. We used to see outbreaks like Ellevio or Blaster or Slammer 15 years ago, and suddenly this year we've seen two similar massive outbreaks. To make it even worse, they've been destructive. They actually encrypt your files and prevent you from using your systems, and this is highly unusual.
But this is not really a new insight or a new risk. We have known about this for a long time, haven't we?
It's almost always the case that companies and individuals really safeguard themselves after they've had problems. And this is the same thing that people do in the real world. They buy fire insurance for their house after their house has burned down. So apparently we need to see the problems ourselves firsthand in order to wake up.
This is a global risk, but we also have a local perspective here in Sweden. So what do you think about that?
On the internet, we have no geography. There are no borders, there are no distances, everything is one world. But having said that, we do have big differences on the kinds of problems companies have in different parts of the world. Northern Europe is actually very well ranked when you look at international statistics. For example, Microsoft's global statistics on the amount of attacks on the networks. So it's actually fairly safe to be running a company here in Northern Europe. But those statistics really tell more about the amount of attack traffic going out from our country, not really coming in from the rest of the world. So the change that internet brought to us, that before the internet you didn't have to worry about criminals who were living far away. Now, because of the internet, you do have to worry about criminals who could be in Brazil or in Argentina or in Ukraine. They're all as close to you as they are to any other victim.
So talking about risks again, with the growing landscape of smart grids, how do we handle that?
The fact is that our societies run on computers. Like, I'm a computer security guy. I've spent my life securing computers, and I always thought that my job is to secure computers. I'm a computer security guy, I secure computers. Well, you know what? That's no longer true, because everything runs on computers. Every single plant, every single factory, every single power plant is being run by computers. The whole society runs on computers. So our job isn't to secure computers anymore, it is to secure the whole society.
So how well prepared are we really to protect ourselves from the worst possible scenario, which would be a power supply outage?
We are very, very reliant on electricity. I mean, everything we do relies on electricity. And when electricity goes down for longer than 5 minutes, we really are in deep trouble. Societies don't function without power anymore. That's why it is not only infrastructure, it is critical infrastructure. And it is being targeted. This is not just something you would read from science fiction books. We have actually seen real attacks against electricity distribution systems as well as power plants. So we have to take this threat very seriously.
This is what you do for a living as well. Are you exaggerating these threats, or are you in what level are we supposed to be scared? I mean, it sounds like we should be really scared when you're...
This is a fact of life. I mean, when you look at companies that provide solutions, of course they like to talk about the problems. But the way I see myself is more of the role of the enabler. So I'd like to think that we, security companies, we enable people, we enable companies to do what they want to do. The security is the groundwork that has to be done so you can do what you want to do. And this is especially important now when everything gets digitalized, including the power distribution systems. I mean, they are becoming digitalized, which means you have to do your homework. And if you do your homework, then you are able to do this securely.
Well, what's the homework then? What's the solutions?
Well, there are things that companies have to do to be able to start building secure systems. The very first thing is leadership. This has to be taken seriously at the highest level of the company. Cybersecurity is not a thing to be discussed in the IT department. It's not a thing for the CISO or CTO. It actually is a board level thing. And that's what I've been impressed about with Ellevio. They really do take this seriously at the highest levels of the company, and they are showing real leadership in this thing. And I do believe that the companies that are able to prove they provide not just the product, but they provide it safely and securely are the ones which will be successful.